Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you are. Welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, brought to you here on all of our various social media platforms by us, the folks at Nerd Caliber. I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, first-person shooter. If you want to look me up as a cosplay photographer on Facebook, Burley_adopter as a tech journalist well, kind of sort of a tech journalist. I don't really cover much. Anyway, on the Twitters. Joining me tonight is Gandalf. Joining me tonight with the Gandalf hat, Lewis, if you would introduce yourself.
My good old Gandalfio hat. I just need a nice little pipe with a little clearly legal in Massachusetts things. But anyways, hey everyone, it's Lewis Correa. Crash the Photos if you want to look me up on Facebook, or Crash the Stampede if you ever want to jump in some video games. I do run a really cool Conan roleplay server that's really fun to play on. You can be whatever you want. I'm also co-producer at Nerd Caliber and one of their freelance writers. I just wrote a fantastic article, I believe it's a fantastic article, about the most recent release of the Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood game. You should come check it out, man. Take a look at that when you get a moment. But I'm looking forward to having some great conversation tonight with all of you guys and with my man Rodney. So please, any questions, just throw it right into that chat.
Absolutely. And it is a really cool article. So before we get started, welcome XOX Gamer 101. Probably just gonna only be a 101 because it'll be a lot easier. Eric Davis, welcome to the show. Waifu Pennywise, welcome back. Luminous, welcome back. Glad to have you all in the chat already. Doing the quick round around of others. There we go. All right. So we're going to start off with some sad news. That is Christopher Plummer, who just appeared on your screen in his role as Chang, the prosecutor from Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country? 5, The Undiscovered Country. Anyway, he passed away this past week. Now, granted, he has been in the business for apparently 53 years, according to this. 70 years. I'm sorry, according to this article. So it's not a big surprise. But while he's done so many wonderful things, and personally, I think, while I definitely remember Chang as a character, I think this is my favorite photo of him from ever. As the head of the Von Trapp family in the classic Sound of Music, ripping a Nazi flag in half. Yes, please. More of that. He actually did a lot of other nerd stuff, which really kind of surprised me when I went and I looked up his IMDb, because on the strength of Chang alone, or it's not really a nerd movie, but it had so many nerd people in it, Knives Out was almost his last movie. It's worth remembering him. He was in 12 Monkeys. Bruce Willis. Yeah. He did voice work for video games, Madeline's European Adventure, Star Trek Starfleet Academy. He reprised the role of Chang in a video game. It's like really amazing, surprising. He was in, oh wow, I didn't realize this. He was in Dracula 2000 as Van Helsing.
Huh. Wow. All right.
Yeah, some really interesting stuff here, and there was one that really sort of surprised me that I want to make sure I call out. That's what it was. He was the voice of Charles Muntz in Up, the explorer that that Carl is looking for. That made all the dogs, gave the dogs the ability to speak and so on. He was in the Paul Bettany movie Priest, the sci-fi movie Priest.
Who was he in Priest?
Monsignor Orlas, basically the top guy. The guy who sends Bettany out on his mission and so on. So yeah, Christopher Plummer, in part because he's been in so many things, has done an awful lot of nerd-related work. And it's very sad to see him go. I'm glad that the last thing I saw him in was Knives Out, which was absolutely brilliant. So that's a bummer.
Yeah, that is. And it's funny because I know earlier we were talking about it, and I confused him with Khan. But the minute I saw the image, I was like, oh yeah, no, I love that guy because he's the Klingon that quotes Shakespeare all the time.
Yep. And the one that finally got Spock to say, "I will pay money if somebody can get that guy to shut up." Like, yes, almost my favorite Spock line ever. But yeah, he was just such an amazing actor, incredible talent, and I'm going to bring it back up again. Please, everybody, rip up Nazi flags. Emulate the Von Trapp patriarch. So moving on to not reminiscence news, although this is a little weird. Once again, I'm using this image from last week of the Buck Rogers comic book. This one from the 1950s. But the news, and this dropped while we were talking about this last week, which is kind of annoying. But it's that the family of the creator of Buck Rogers, Philip Francis Nolan, has said that Legendary Entertainment does not have the rights to actually make this limited series that we talked about that we're making last week. They have sent a cease and desist order. And the lawyers for Legendary say that they have all the rights that they need, that they don't need to get involved with the Nolan Family Trust at all. But the Nolan Family Trust apparently has licensed the rights to Buck Rogers to Skydance Entertainment, which is making its own movie.
Yeah. I distinctly remember reading an article about that, actually. Whether we're talking about the debate between the two as to who has the licensing, and there's a lot of convoluted mess in terms of who has the licensing, who doesn't have the licensing, who has control versus who has control. And it seems that the family itself just really has a habit of making these lawsuits, and they never seem to go anywhere from what I've read.
Yeah, this article on Deadline says that their attorney is no stranger to fighting studios and producers. And also, if you followed any of the pre-Fox acquisition of the Marvel MCU and its whole rights problems, and the current ongoing, I guess they've sort of settled them, the rights deals with Sony for Spider-Man, rights are incredibly complex. They don't always involve all the same entertainment. There are rights that may have been just assigned for movies. There are rights that may have been just assigned for television, and those could be to two separate things. If you look at Lord of the Rings, there are different rights holders for video games, for TV series, for movies. All of them are different rights holders. Right now, Amazon has the rights to doing a TV series. Warner Brothers still has the rights to the movies when they acquired, can't remember the name of the company they bought, that had it. And a couple of different people have, Amazon also have rights to the video games. But those first two are not necessarily connected.
Yeah. And sometimes, and I think often people confuse the right to the character versus the right to the actor. Because you have every right to have the rights to the actor if you want to put the actor in something. But having rights to the character is a completely different thing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Tom Holland is making the Nathan Drake movie, Uncharted movie, because whoever bought the rights to that decided they wanted Tom Holland. Sony doesn't own Tom Holland. Sony owns the usage rights to Spider-Man, which they've cast Tom Holland in. So,
yeah, there was a thing a while back I read about Jet Li having a dispute with some movie studios about it. It was a movie that they wanted him to be in way back when he was like full-time acting, and he refused and actually turned it down because in the contract they wanted to maintain a control of his likeness in case he passed away or something like that, so they could digitalize him and put him into other movies in the future. And wow. He was just like, no way are you gonna have control of my face and my likeness.
Yeah, I'd love to read that article. It hasn't, tangential to what we're doing, but if you can find that, send it to me. I want to read that because I want to find out who had the stones to do that. That's wow. That's some stones. Anyway, moving on to, this is obviously from Rick and Morty. And the news isn't about Rick and Morty, but it is about one of the co-creators of Rick and Morty. It is about Dan Harmon, and he has been given the green light to do an animated series for Fox that is set in mythical ancient Greece, and deals with how a whole family that includes humans, gods, and monsters is trying to run one of the world's first cities without killing each other or the people in the city. Clearly, it's a comedy. And I think this is a cool idea. I like the idea of him sort of using this ancient Greek mythology to make modern commentary on, political systems and so on. Whether it's going to be as completely insane as Rick and Morty, who knows?
So I read it, and my initial approach was like, okay, all right. If it's not like Rick and Morty and like his other Hulu show, the extraterrestrial one, which I don't remember the name.
So that's not him. That's Justin Roiland. That's the other co-creator of.
I get confused because I think they work don't they work in the same studio together creating things? Anyways, valid point. But I don't want it to be like Rick and Morty.
Right.
If you're gonna do something, make it different. But I feel like he has a tendency of switching into his topical Rick and Morty approach to things, and I'm hoping it's not like that. I don't mind that humor, don't get me wrong. I just don't want like Greek version of Rick and Morty.
Right. And I agree. Byron, welcome to the chat. Yeah, I agree with that. He also did the live action series Community. Well, most of it. He didn't do season 4, which everybody hates. But so he can do a completely different kind of humor. I mean, Community has plenty of wonderful commentary, more on nerddom than it does on any sort of political issues or so on. And it's not nearly as wildly nihilistic, for lack of a better term, edgelord as Rick and Morty is. And I'm sure that Dan Harmon would hate me for saying that because he despises people who generally are described as edgelords. But it's kind of edgelord humor. Anyway, it looks cool. It's coming out. This is one of the very few articles where they actually post a projection, because Fox has said this is going to happen in 2022. Even though they just greenlit it, they're apparently far enough along that they can say, next year we're going to see this. So good for them.
I could see that. I mean, if they're announcing it at this point, then they've already been like full steaming ahead on it.
Yep.
So
it's being animated by Bento Box Entertainment, which says which makes a number of the Nets animated series. So I don't know what network or internet animated series it's describing.
Yeah, that's kind of vague.
Yeah, I'm going to really quickly see if I can look up Bento Box while we're just chatting about stuff. I don't need to use this anymore. This information about wow, Bento Box has no listings whatsoever on IMDb.
Wonderful. And also, to answer your previous question, it was Warner. It was Warner Brothers who wanted Jet Li's stuff.
Oh, wow, that doesn't surprise me. Byron D0, 6 seasons in a movie, could be. So, completely aside, if you ever get a chance, look at the Lindsay Ellis's YouTube channel about the making of the Lord of the Rings. The 6th, I think it's 6. I can't remember how long. It's a multi-series or multi-video series that she did, when she actually went to New Zealand. It ends with what Warner Brothers did to the New Zealand movie-making entire business and economy. It got laws passed in New Zealand that it wanted passed so it could make the movie the way it wanted to make it. It's brutal what these Warner Brothers lawyers will do. It's brutal. But anyway, so that doesn't surprise me in the least that it was Warner Brothers. Moving on. This is a screenshot from one episode of one of the seasons of Wynonna Earp, a very popular sci-fi series about the great granddaughter of Wyatt Earp, who isn't just a Western gunslinger, is also has the ability to use that to fight to fight supernatural things. So it's a the series Supernatural, except with cowboys or cowgirl. Byron, BB Bento Box did Bob's Burgers. Oh, all right. I'm down with that.
I love Wynonna Earp, to be honest. I know it has a pretty solid fan base, and it's not one of those shows that's like widely everywhere. Yeah. But
let me just back up for a second. The news is that it has now been canceled. That this current season 4, when it's done, is the last of the show, at least on Sci-Fi. Who knows? It may get picked up like The Expanse did somewhere else.
I don't really see it getting picked up like that, but who knows, right? It's a pretty solid show. It's not amazing, but it's a solid show. And I'm always one of those people that get slightly annoyed with don't get mad at me, everyone out there, but sometimes I get annoyed with leftists and in general progressives who want these kind of shows on the air and then seldom ever support them or speak about them or do anything like that. And Wynonna Earp is one of those characters where it has a pretty solid, strong female lead, decent stories, LGBTA things going on in it, and it doesn't like pander in terms of any of those things. It develops it organically, and I think guys, binge it, give it a shot, watch a few episodes. If you don't like it, that's fine. But if you're into supporting things like that, support those shows, because that's how they get picked up on other channels and stuff like that.
No, I gotta say, I've only seen one episode. It didn't grab me, but that was back way early on when it first started. And I just discovered, after looking up images for this, that Wynonna is played by the same actress that plays Mrs. McMurray on Letterkenny. And now I'm going to have to go back and try it again, because she is so freaking hilarious on Letterkenny. Inappropriately, disturbingly hilarious. So, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And also, here's a good point. Keying into on what you were saying about LGBTQ positive type shows, it's funny how I was going to credit Sci-Fi for this, but realistically, it's the Canadian produced shows that Sci-Fi picks up and runs that have that kind of representation. Lost Girl was fantastic for that, Canadian show. Wynonna Earp, Canadian show. So big ups for all you folks in Canada who are making this sort of stuff. But anyway, if you were a huge fan, sorry folks, however many episodes are in this current season left, that's what you get. Boo. But now to a yay. So, if you watch the Super Bowl, it was, for those of us who like really funny, creative, or really spectacular advertisements, commercials, that you watch it for that as much as you do the football. This was weak sauce. Super, super weak sauce. But it did give us the newest trailer for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And that's an image from it where you get a really good look at the Wakanda-made arm and the new costume for Sam and so on. I really liked it. I loved that they finally gave us a clear view of Zemo with the mask, with the purple mask, that they imply pretty strongly that there are other characters. I mean, aside from, we know U.S. Agent is going to be in there, that Walker is going to be in there. That's him wearing the new Captain America-esque uniform, but with the shield. Whoever that is that kicks the snot out of Bucky on that train, clearly that's a superpowered individual. And I don't know who the character is right now, so I'm really looking forward to finding out what that reveal is. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
liked it.
so I saw only part of it, to be honest, but I did read a lot about it because I tend to do that before I come onto the show. And so the implication is that their flag smasher is a part of the show, which is a very anti-America, allegorical, anti-Captain America type of person.
Yep.
And they've from what I've read, the idea is that they've turned it into more of an organization as opposed to an individual, which I don't know, because the description was kind of weird in that it almost made me feel like they're just like, we're creating Antifa for the show and we're going to call them flag smashers. And I was kind of a little uncomfortable with that because we all know Antifa is not an organization. So when you try to make an allegory kind of thing with that, you're kind of connecting two dots that don't necessarily connect properly, and people will take that to the next level in the comparison.
Yeah, if it is that group, I'm gonna guess that they're going to very clearly change their mission statement. Now, maybe the fans who are aware of that group from the comics might actually not pay attention to that clear statement about how it's not an Antifa analog. But we'll have to see. If that is the case, I would find that disturbing as well. I would not like that aspect of the show.
Yeah, I hope not, because it looks pretty good. It looks like a solid show so far. I'm pretty sure people on Twitter, which I only go once in a while now, will be pissed off that Winter Soldier has cut his hair. But you know what? Deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, he had different hairstyles throughout the comics too. All right? Come on.
Yeah.
Lighten up. Actually,
I am looking forward to U.S. Agent because that's a character that's gone through like a very tumultuous, I probably mispronounced that word, very difficult very difficult storyline progression through like numerous itinerations of things that he's done, and the fact that he's just like a psychotic Captain America on top of that is just because that's what you need. You need someone who has that level of idealism but doesn't realize that they're an extremist. They're not nuke.
Yes. Yeah. And you did tumultuous. You pronounced it exactly right. So I really liked it. I'm very much looking forward to this. Pardon me. I like the fact that it starts up 1 week after WandaVision ends. So we've only got a little bit of a gap between MCU content. Yes. Not crazy about the fact that it's only 6 episodes long. Now, each episode is supposedly longer. Like the clock's in at 40 minutes plus, but it's not an hour. And it's only 6 of them. So
I could, honestly, I could understand that from a person of color perspective, in that sometimes people say they're ready for a show like that, and then they're not actually ready for a show like that, where you have a strong black lead and a strong white lead, and then specifically executives, are always like, I don't know how this is going to work out because they're equal. They have equal billing, as opposed to like the white guy being up and the black guy being the sidekick. They're both together. I don't know. So let's give them 6 episodes and see how the people like it. Yeah. And it really is just going to come down to the advertising and how we push this and things like that.
I was going to say, except, Black Panther made them $1.3 billion. So, but it's Disney. And if there's any entity out there that is completely 100% driven by the idea of pissing off as few people as humanly possible, it's Disney. So, yeah, you may be right. I'm with you. Hopefully that's not the case, that it was literally a matter of how much money, and production and so on. But, yeah, maybe it was. Well, let's give them 6 episodes and see if we can boost it up to 8 or 9 next time, if there's going to be a next time.
Yeah, and probably and I'll be fair here. Let's say I'm wrong. It could be just pandemic production. Which
they did shut down multiple times. We've reported on that.
Yeah. So maybe they couldn't do a whole 9 or 10, or they wanted to stick with the newly minted Mandalorian format of only going back to old school half-hour 40-minute episodes as opposed to an hour long, so maybe we're going to have more condensed storytelling.
That could be, and that wouldn't be bad. We could get into a whole thing about whether or not WandaVision had condensed storytelling, but we're not talking about WandaVision. I skipped over a topic, folks, which may have confused you, Lewis, so we're going to go back to this topic. You wouldn't know this if I didn't tell you, so I don't know why I just told you, but it's more for Lewis's sake. So you're probably looking at your screen going, why is there a cartoon image of Kim Kardashian on my screen? Well, the news is that EA has paid $2.1 billion to buy, it's one of the biggest gaming acquisitions ever, to buy Glu Mobile, GLU Mobile, which makes nothing but mobile games. And they've Diner Dash, Deer Hunter, WWE Universe, and Kim Kardashian Hollywood. So that's why that picture is up there. I couldn't think of a better thing to put up there to portray how much I really don't care about mobile games. But $2.1 billion is $2.1 billion.
Don't let the Genshin Impact people hear that.
Yeah, even then, boy, it's the gotcha version type mobile games, Fate Go and all that. That's even worse, man.
The freaking grinds and the money, the pay to wins. And you know what? I'm going to say the same thing I said to somebody on Twitter who was like, I can't believe that EA would buy this company. Why the hell not? EA has been widely reviled for its pay-to-win formats and its paid DLC and their microtransactions and things like that. If I was a company that really wanted to maximize my income, this is something that we love doing, is the microtransactions. Why not pick up companies that make video games that basically run on microtransactions? People may not believe it, but for cell phone mobile gaming is the big thing.
Yep.
We don't want to believe it, but it is progressively getting bigger with more complicated phones, with newer chips in phones that runs really great, fantastic mobile games. And microtransactions are the big money. That's the gold rush right now in terms of game development. And so EA picking up a company that obviously EA is not a really good game developer. So picking up a company that exclusively deals with that stuff or thing to sink that money and grab that money, well, shit, I would have made that move myself.
Yeah, even though I wouldn't play the games, I would buy that. Glu Mobile made $1.3 billion last year off of mobile games. So, yeah, Lewis, you got it 100% right. This was absolutely a smart call on their part. EA had essentially no mobile arm whatsoever. This is similar to what Warner Brothers Games bought Turbine here in Massachusetts years ago because they had started working on mobile type games. Within a couple of years, they closed down their MMOs, their MMO Asheron's Call, sold off their MMO Lord of the Rings and their MMO Dungeons and Dragons Online, two the most enormous intellectual properties you can imagine having. Warner Brothers went, yeah, no, we don't want to run, MMOs. We don't want to run AAA games like that. You guys are going to be making mobile games from now on. So yeah, it's a smart call on EA's part.
That's what they do, and that's for some of you people who are not familiar. Companies like EA buy studios, and then they don't keep that studio. They gut the studio. They take who they want, who they need, the assets that they need, and then they kick everybody out the door the rest of the way. So
yes, when you're talking about more normal, like AAA type development, remember, EA doesn't have anybody in-house right now that could do what Glu Mobile does.
Sure. But see, what they're going to do, what they often do, is they'll maintain the studio for 2-3 years while they develop the assets and start moving people internal. And then from there, they tend to kind of
That could be, and you know, if the name Glu Mobile disappears and the studio disappears and it becomes like EA Mobile or something, you know, as long as they maintain pretty close to the what's like 800 employees for Glu Mobile, 500 game developers, yeah, that's okay. That, you know, that sort of happens in any kind of acquisition, you know.
Yeah. I know a lot of that. I'm guessing on this part, so don't hold me to the grain of salt, everyone. But I'm pretty sure a large amount of Glu Mobile's workers are overseas.
It doesn't say that here, and I haven't had a chance to look that up, so I can't say that for sure. But it might be the case. So yeah. EA previously purchased PopCap, which made Bejeweled and Plants vs. Zombies in 2012. So I guess they do have a mobile division. My bad.
I haven't heard PopCap in like forever.
Yeah. So they do have a mobile division, but it's not nearly as big a moneymaker, clearly, as Glu. And, you know, for all you people out there that play Kim Kardashian in Hollywood. Anyway. Shame. All right. So moving on to our next topic. And once again, a very confusing image. You're probably wondering why on your screen right now there is an image from the 2015 live-action Gem and the Holograms movie. The reason is that the director of that brilliant piece of work, John M. Chu, has been named to direct Universal's film adaptation of the stage play Wicked. Chu was supposed to be the primary director for the Willow series, but bowed out recently, which we covered a few weeks, well, more than a month ago. And I didn't look that deeply into Chu's background, other than, you know, he made Crazy Rich Asians, which was, you know, hugely popular, made a ton of money. It's like, oh yeah, the guy who made Crazy Rich Asians. Aside from Crazy Rich Asians, his primary credits are Now You See Me 2, not the first one, Gem and the Holograms, G.I. Joe Retaliation, so again, the second one, and the documentary Justin Bieber's Believe and Justin Bieber Never Say Never. So
I'm going to go on a limb and say that I actually did enjoy G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Yeah, okay, I'll give it was better than the first one.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty solid. It had a much better storyline, so I'll give him that. Yeah. And Gem and the Holograms was such a... it was a failure of understanding what Gem and the Holograms was about.
Yep. Yeah, and you know, maybe he absolutely is a stage guy and understands what Wicked is about or what its story is about or so on. But you know,
yeah, it's tough. He got like one solid win, I would give him, with Retaliation, and then everything else is kind of like oatmeal with no honey, just bland.
That's a great description. Because yeah, most of the rest. So, I mean, the stuff that I've never seen any of the Justin Bieber documentaries. And I'm not gonna. So I don't know how bland those are. Although I'm pretty sure that Never Say Never is in the direct inspiration for Lonely Island's Never Stop Stopping. But yeah, so John Chu has bailed on Willow, and we found out why. It's because he's going to go make Wicked.
And it's a shame, because I think he would have done pretty good with Willow, to be honest, based on some of the action movies that he's done.
So Retaliation, yeah, okay. I don't see anything in there that says he understands fantasy like Peter Jackson clearly does with Lord of the Rings.
If I remember correctly, he was a big fan of Willow too, though, right?
Yes,
I remember we talked about it. So like, I definitely think he would do it the best.
Yeah.
In terms of like his best, because he understands the material. He loves Willow. I love Willow. I always, growing up, I thought Mad Mardigan was the coolest son of a bitch I've ever seen.
It's pretty close. It's good. Val Kilmer. Everything Val Kilmer does is amazing. Hack Game, welcome to the show. So, to be fair, we don't know that Chu was pulled away from Willow by Universal money for Wicked. And yes, you're right. You reminded me he was a huge fan of Willow. It may have been that he didn't like the direction that Willow was going as a series. I mean, you never know.
I vaguely recall maybe it being a family issue or something like that.
Yes,
Why
yeah,
he
I
pulled
think you're
away.
right. So anyway, we'll have to see where this goes. I'm not a huge fan. If Byron was on here, as he says here, oh God, get him away from Wicked. Byron is an enormous fan of stage work. Me, meh, it's interesting, but yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna be terribly put out if he ruins Wicked. But I would hate to see it happen for my friends who would be terribly put out. All right, moving on to our next topic. That is one of my favorite shots of Legend of the Daywalker, a cosplayer who does pretty much nothing but Blade cosplay. And the news is Blade has picked the writer that is going to be writing the movie, and it is one of the writers of Watchmen, Stacey O.C. Kufor, a New York playwright, is going to be writing this. As we said, Mahershala Ali is going to be starring. They made that announcement way back when. And I like this news. I like this idea. I loved Watchmen. And if Watchmen was as good as it was, not because of Damon Lindelof's involvement, because of Stacey O.C. Kufor, please have this person write more movies or more TV series.
Yeah. Yeah. The writing for Watchmen was absolutely delicious. Like it was the topping on every dessert I've ever had that was the best. Like I've never seen outside of a few other movies. I've never seen such a concise, and I know I said movies, but I'm talking shows and movies.
Yeah.
I've never seen such a concise level of writing that got to the point, but also heightened the drama at the same time and managed to maintain the pace with very little in the way of slip ups. So if she's doing work for Blade, I can genuinely see Blade becoming more of an action drama, which I think is fitting in a way because I liked the first Blade movie.
Yep.
With Wesley Snipes, I thought it was a good balance of the drama and the action, and then it just kind of started going more action in the second and third movie. Third movie being the worst.
Yeah, see, I'll disagree. I really like the third movie, only because of Ryan Reynolds.
I feel like that's not enough weight.
Yeah.
Vampire Pomeranian, come on, Dracula in a Mayan temple that no one's ever freaking found. Except for these vampires, they just happen to.
It was dumber than a box of rocks, and the fact that they called Dracula Drake just made me want to puke. But
Triple H with his gold-plated fangs.
That I loved that. I thought that was hilarious. I just so many. It was so funny. It was so.
You were the chosen one.
It was so funny. But yeah, I agree that as far as writing goes, the first one was definitely the best. David Goyer wrote all of them. Who's written so many, superhero and science fiction movies, the Dark Knight stuff, and so on. And yeah, the first one was the best. Second one, Guillermo del Toro directing it. The script wasn't that great, but boy, did it look great.
Yeah.
And the third one, yeah, you're right. It was basically, let's have a action horror comedy with Ryan Reynolds that happens to be named Blade. But I still found it was fun. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this. Frankly, it can't come fast enough. Anything Mahershala Ali does, I'm on board. He's so good. Moving on to our next topic, and speaking of people who are really good, although unfortunately won't be directly involved in the final product, that is, of course, the amazing Idris Elba. And the news is that Idris and Sabrina Elba's production company has signed a deal with Crunchyroll, of all things, to make an anime series. The headline is wrong. The headline calls it a dark fantasy. If you look through it, this thing, which has a working title, Dantai, they describe it an Afrofuturistic sci-fi series set in a city where the rise of biotechnology has created an ever-widening gap between the haves and have-nots. So it's a sci-fi series, not fantasy. So fix that variety. But I'm 100% in for that. I love the concept. I love dystopian or semi-dystopian sci-fi, particularly in anime when it's done well. And with Elba involved, yeah, or the Elbas. I have no idea what Sabrina Elba's background is in any kind of entertainment production, but hey, if all they're doing is putting up the money, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're standing on the precipice of having some amazing Afrocentric things coming out, and I think having him, who's a very predominant figure, not just in movies and TV shows, but also music, because he's a DJ. You know, I feel like he, and along with his wife, can do a fantastic job of bringing this to life and bringing a whole bunch of different things with this with their involvement. I just hope that they are like fundamentally involved in it more than we seem to think.
Yes. Yeah, I would assume they are. Well, actually, it's apparently two different production companies. They each have their own. Idris Elba's is Green Door Pictures, and Sabrina's is Pink Towel Pictures. So apparently, both of them will be acting as executive producers, or their production companies will be the production companies. That's not uncommon with anime. They usually have somewhere, well, sometimes it's a single, but they usually have like 2 to 5, or in some cases even more, production companies listed, basically the ones that, you know, have to put up the money, which is why if you watch a lot of anime, you'll see that it is a title of the anime group production. And what that simply means is that all of these producers got together and they created sort of a temporary LLC that is the production company for that one anime, even though they're all together putting in the money. So that may be the case here. I don't know that Crunchyroll has that same sort of financing pattern for stuff that isn't specifically produced in Japan. I mean, they certainly have done it with some of their more recent stuff, like the absolutely horrible X-Arm. Oh my God. But you know, other things that they've produced more locally, like the I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, so we don't know exactly, again, when this is going to happen. We don't know how much of the acquisition of Crunchyroll by the division of Sony that owns Funimation played into, you know, maybe freeing up some money to make this happen. But if it did, it's, you know, one of the reasons to not necessarily hate the Sony buy of Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to this. The description of the storyline is right in my wheelhouse. Love that stuff. Byron, X-Arm was trash. Is still ongoing, Byron. But yes, it is.
Don't mind me. My
yeah, I noticed your lighting
backlight kind of went
a little weirdness. That's okay, as long as we can still see you. All right, that is on your screen right now, an image from the fantastic animated movie Kubo and the Two Strings. And the news is the creator of that, Leica, has donated funds to build a stop-motion animation studio in Maryland's Bowie State University. That makes this the first type studio in an HBCU, a historically black college and university. And yay to them. Huge ups, huge kudos to Leica for doing this in general, expanding out the idea of, you know, animation and teaching animation to be not just CG, which is being taught in so many schools now, and that's great because that gives us stuff like The Mandalorian, which literally looks like it's filmed on location everywhere. You know, like they flew to worlds that don't exist.
Yeah.
But then you look at what, you know, Leica has done with Coraline, with Paranorman, with Kubo and the Two Strings. It's, you know, I'm all in on that as well.
I agree. I think there's something to be said about wanting to preserve old ways of doing things, because I think like a lot there's a lot of people who debate CGI over, like, say, puppetry, traditional puppetry. But you can do so many amazing and creative things with puppetry. Sure, CGI you can have a bit more, but sometimes knowing the traditional way of doing things allows you to imagine, like, have a more expansive understanding of things, how you develop things, how you want to make a character look, for example. When you have access to training that shows you the limitations of old things, and then you learn the newer things, you learn how to expand and be more creative in that aspect as well. And not to say that puppetry is old either, because puppetry is still a very, like, tangible thing nowadays, and it's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I brought the image back up here, so you should look at that. They brought new technology to old technology. Those are stop motion, made almost entirely with paper and plastic, and those faces are 3D printed so that they can literally get minute changes to the facial expressions, which they do with stop motion. The monkey, all of that is paper. That hair is all paper, little bits of shredded paper, and these guys are amazing. And if you haven't seen Kubo and the Two Strings, go watch it. Fantastic, fantastic animated of any kind movie. But and let's get more of this in HBCUs as well. Including CG and other types of studios. Let's get more corporations or creative studios, because I guess Leica is technically a business, so it's technically a corporation, but they are a truly creative studio. Skipping over the UCLAs and so on, and let's get more of this investment in the HBCUs, please.
Yeah, I agree. Corporations, well, businesses and corporations tend to skim on paying taxes anyways. At the very least, they could contribute to social programs that help elevate people of all kinds.
Exactly. So moving on, but sticking with black topics and so on. It's kind of that month, right? Not kind of. It definitely is that month. We finally got an update on a lot of the stuff that Ava DuVernay has been doing, have been planning with CW, and that is that CW has given pilot orders to 2 series that DuVernay is working on. That is an image from the DC comic Naomi, and that's one of the series that she's working on for CW. And one of the others is a live action version. Oh no, where'd my artwork go? Right there. Of the Powerpuff Girls. I don't believe it stars these 3 ladies. These are cosplayers from Dragon Con 2013, maybe. So probably not them. But I think this is wonderful. After seeing DuVernay's stuff, I can't wait to see more of this, more of what she's going to bring to finally to television and to streaming. So I'm excited for this. Naomi is one of the biggest hits that DC has had in the last few years, created by Brian Michael Bendis, and I always can never remember the name of his co-writer. David F. Walker. Huh. So David F. Walker also, I believe it's the same person, wrote the Lady in the Lake comic book that was adapted by Netflix into that terrible series that you and I couldn't watch, Lewis.
The one that we got flamed on? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, certainly Brian Michael Bendis. Let's say that.
I mean, I think this is a great idea, and I love that this she's getting her dues. I'm always leery about CW, because CW and their superhero shows, it's
Yeah, and there's no indication here, and I don't think I've read whether or not this is actually going to be tied into the Arrowverse or Flash universe or whatever you want to call it now of CW DC stuff. Everything else is. Everything that Berlanti Productions makes is tied into this.
I hope not. I genuinely hope not, and I hope she has complete creative control as well.
So it's being co-executive produced by one of the writers of Arrow, Jill Blankenship. So that indicates that it probably will be. I can't really imagine them putting in a DC piece of content that isn't. Since they've brought Supergirl into the continuity now and they've brought Black Lightning into the continuity, to have them make a show that is no longer in the continuity seems kind of...
Yeah.
But, and I agree. I think it would be difficult for them to maintain the quality that I'm expecting out of an Ava DuVernay show if it's got to be part of the CW, Arrowverse. So,
yeah, hopefully. And Luminous, I followed some of Bendis's work in DC. I think he recently got taken off the Superman writing for various different reasons, but it's pretty on par with his Marvel so far.
Yeah. Part of that is that his exclusivity contract ended. So he's still an employee of DC, but not an exclusive employee. His relaunch of Young Justice was fantastic. I really like that. I only read the first few issues, but it was really good. From what I understand, his stuff has been pretty well received over at DC.
Yeah, I know people have had issues with his Superman run.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things where, and not to go off on a tangent here, so I'll just summarize this very quickly, but it's basically not giving him, he tends to be a long-term investment writer, and they just want money paid off right away.
Yeah. He does set things up to pay off way down the road, particularly back in his Marvel days with his X-Men work. And he's also not shy about doing controversial stuff. I mean, he was one that wrote the idea of bringing the original team forward into the future, into the current timeline to create that tension between the older versions and the younger versions of themselves. And a lot of people thought that was pretty cheesy. I think he handled it very well. But anyway, and we don't have really any idea how this whole Powerpuff thing is going to play out, so...
Yeah, I'm going to reserve opinion on that until I see more.
Yeah,
it's just I don't want to have one of them really ugly, uneducated opinions.
I skipped over this. Luz Lugo, welcome to the show, and Byron says check out Onyx Equinox. I didn't make it past the first 2 episodes, Byron. I don't. Apparently, if you're saying check it out because you think it's good, I didn't like it for a whole bunch of reasons. Mostly having to do with writing and voice acting, frankly. But anyway, moving on. That is, of course, the one, the only Marilyn Manson. And the news is that Marilyn Manson has been dropped from the upcoming season of American Gods. From what I understand, which is stuff that had already been filmed. Because of the allegations about sexual abuse or an abusive relationship that have been leveled against him first from Evan Rachel Wood, and since then from multiple other women, apparently at least 4 of them. And he's been dropped by now pretty much everybody. His record label, his management company. Not looking good for the leader of the Dope Show.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a bajillion things I can say about this topic, but I'll try to keep it as concise as possible. He's a piece of shit. He's always been a piece of shit, and just like people who make a lot of money and become famous, he basically got the deliberate obtuseness of everybody around him to indirectly enable his disgustingly predatory behavior. And I just want to point out one thing. Marilyn Manson is not goddamn Johnny Depp. So please stop making that comparison, because it's not the same. Johnny Depp and the Amber Heard thing. There's a big thing on Twitter with Marilyn Manson and Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and Johnny Depp is going through his court case. He lost the media court case, but there's a lot of evidence to show abuse on both sides. There's a lot there. We're not going to go into all of that. Marilyn Manson, it's a one-sided thing. He is the abuser. He is not. He's trying to claim now that he was also being abused, but it's not the same. He has a whole ton of people calling him out, ex-girlfriends and whatnot, and his former guitarist also came forward. So if you don't want to believe the women because you're somehow misogynistic and sexist, the guitarist is male, and he also pointed out that this behavior was very indicative of Marilyn Manson, and that he himself was assaulted physically by Marilyn Manson, who tried to choke him out.
So, getting to your statement about Marilyn Manson being a piece of garbage, although I don't believe that's the word you used, I chose this image just because it happened to be a pretty good one that reflected. That's interesting that Luminous. Marilyn Manson is abusive? Didn't see that coming. And Byron, Manson is an edgelord and abuser, and for some reason, I guess because of the word abuser, YouTube hid that for you, Byron, until I allowed it through. Anyway, this picture happens to be sort of an example of, I guess, what his character might have looked like when he was in the in American Gods. I tried to find a picture. He did at least one tour in which almost the entire costuming for all of his people, plus himself, and the general set design was 100% influenced by Nazi imagery. The costumes were Hugo Boss ripoffs. The only thing he did is that he made sure that none of the actual Nazi symbology was on the uniforms or in the stage decoration, except for at least twice where he brought up actual Nazi flags onto stage. Google does not have any of those images.
Yes.
So he has somebody who's done a very good job of paying to scrub that stuff out, and you can do it. You can put, the images are copywritten by whoever had them. You can put requests to have that stuff taken down if you're in it, if you're in the image. So yeah, we've known that Marilyn Manson has been at the very least willing to trade on horrible imagery to actually get notoriety. Byron says he's also a groomer. When this relationship with Evan Rachel Wood started, she was 19 and he was 38.
Yeah, it's just disgusting all around, and people have spent so much time enabling this guy. I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be real here. Male celebrities get this preferential treatment all the damn time, and we'll see if he suffers anything from it. Yeah, I mean, I know he's been dumped from a lot of things, but so have a whole lot of other celebrities, only to come back 2, 3, 4, 5 years later because their rabid fan base doesn't want to grasp that this person can be the piece of shit that they actually are.
Yep. So I didn't realize that apparently, this is how much I've dropped off American Gods. It's already running, and he's already been in the show. He appeared in last week's episode, the fourth episode of the season, called The Unseen. And they have decided that they are going to take all of his appearances out of upcoming episodes before they air. So, good on Starz for doing this. Good on the production company of American Gods. Neil Gaiman is essentially the showrunner, has been for the last 2 seasons. Good on Neil Gaiman. I can't imagine him allowing this stuff to go anyway. Kudos to all around for treating a piece of garbage like a piece of garbage.
Absolutely. And hopefully people, when you see the lawsuits and everything happen, you don't side with Manson comparing him to Johnny Depp and yada yada yada.
Yep.
Treat him as he is. Go by the evidence presented and the information provided, and stop dodging it. People don't idolize celebrities like him. I firmly believe you shouldn't idolize any celebrities because they're fallible. Like everyone else, they're people and they make mistakes and they do dumb, stupid shit all the time too.
Yep. And so, sometimes they are allowed to come back from that, depending on the dumb, stupid shit. Abusing multiple women over decades, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to somebody who is not a piece of garbage, and in fact, in my mind, is about the polar opposite of that as you could possibly get. That is, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis. That's a promo shot from the most recent Halloween that she was in. The news is that Jamie Lee Curtis has been cast as the character Tanis in the upcoming Borderlands movie that's being directed by Eli Roth and written by the creator of Chernobyl, Craig Mazin.
Oof.
I agree. Yeah. Now we had commentary about this when it was announced 2 weeks ago, I think, that Kevin Hart had been cast, and Ashley pointed out that Kevin Hart is known for making very homophobic statements, transphobic, but Jamie Lee Curtis as Tanis, from what I understand, I've never played the game, so I'm relying on Lewis's expertise on this way more than my own. It looks like a really, really smart call.
Yeah, absolutely based on the character of Tanis, which for some of you who might not know or not familiar with it, she's a vault scientist in the Borderlands series. She's she's very quirky, and that's one of the things that people tend to enjoy with her. She is very reclusive, and she's lonely. She has a lot of quirkiness to her, and as you progress in the series of games, you learn that she's also autistic, which is incredible to have a character who's autistic but also plays to the tics and the mannerisms of people who have autism. They don't brush that over and just slap that title on her saying that she is. And there's a lot there, and I think she can really bring this character to life. I think she can really. Jamie Lee Curtis is an incredible actress, and she has that range. I've seen her in other movies where she's funny, and she can really pull that off. And I think for being Tanis, who's a slightly unhinged autistic scientist who was a former siren, yada yada yada, there's a lot there. Now, obviously, in the same vein as Kevin Hart saying transphobic and homophobic things, we also have the thing of, why can't we have an autistic actress play an autistic character? And I'm honestly not going to comment on that, and I'm not going to comment on that not because I believe one way or the other, but purely because I am not the person to be commenting on that. That information, I don't have enough knowledge of working intimately with people who have autism. I've only ever worked with one person who had autism, and that's about it. So I don't feel I have a educated thought on that.
Yeah, same here. And frankly, we don't know that Jamie Lee Curtis is not autistic.
That is true.
That may be something that if she was, that she didn't want to put out there. Yeah, I was going to. You're right. We shouldn't make any assumptions about this. I will give them a knock if it turns out that there were other potential people that they could have hired that were autistic and they didn't decide to go with that. But that's a potential knock. We don't know. So aside from that, I think this is brilliant casting. I'm 100% into this, and I got to say, Jamie Lee Curtis is a absolutely top tier nerd, and I found plenty of pictures of her. There are pictures out there of her at the Warcraft premiere, which she wasn't in, cosplaying as an orc sorceress and running around yelling Leroy Jenkins.
That's awesome.
Unfortunately, all of the pictures, because it was on the red carpet, all of the pictures are from Getty Images, and boy, can we not use Getty Images stuff. They love finding people who use it and taking their videos down. Yeah, she's a super nerd and a fantastic comic actress. and just general, actress or actress in general. So I'm big ups for this. Kate Blanchett as Lilith, and okay, so Kevin Hart playing Roland, which we talked about as like physical head turning, Roland.
Yeah, it's just I get it. He's funny and he's a really relevant actor now, but Roland is not funny really. He's more of a deadpan person, and he's probably about 6 feet tall.
Right. Which Kevin Hart is way not. Luminous. I've never seen a movie directed by Eli Roth. As far as I know, he makes extremely gory and violent movies. That is true. Gore fest horror movies is his wheelhouse.
He co-produced Baywatch.
There you go. So we don't know. I don't have his IMDb up, so I don't know if he's done, what he's done other than that.
No, I do have his IMDb.
Okay.
Yeah, it's largely just horror. He did The Man with the Iron Fist, which was a good Wu-Tang movie.
Oh God, that was awful. Oh, that was awful.
It was awful, but to your point about Trinity, it was fun.
And the action was great. I will give you that. But wow.
And he co-produced Baywatch. That's about it. Everything else is horror.
Yeah.
Oh, and Violet? That's a TV series, though. No, I never even heard of that.
Yeah, I haven't heard that either. Anyway, so moving on, but sticking with the Borderlands stuff, I just had to use that as the image because, why not? Why not use Jessica as our image of Gearbox and Borderlands? And the news is that Gearbox has been acquired for $1.3 billion by Embracer Group, which is a Swedish company that owns THQ Nordic.
Okay.
So I'm guessing that this may not have any real serious impact on any of the Gearbox gaming content. It may have some sort of impact on the movie, but I guess that most of the rights to that have already been settled, and that's because it's in production. And
THQ gets an influx of money for production of games.
Right. Yeah. So, or Gearbox does because they're getting the.
Yeah. Gearbox. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said in our Facebook page, I'm glad it's not Tencent.
Oh, Tencent? Yeah.
Yeah. I just nothing against China really, but a Chinese government controlled, I should clarify, Chinese government controlled media company that's been buying up games companies and studios and heavily investing in a lot of Western things is kind of iffy for me. And it's iffy, not necessarily in some tin hat conspiracy sort of way, but China's very good at censoring things.
Yes.
And when they have the buying power to invest in studios, they can really change the way things are made.
Yeah. And this isn't a tin hat conspiracy thing. There is no such thing as a company in China that does not have complete and total control of whatever it does from the government. If the government tells a company that it can't or can or must do something, it will do that, or the company will disappear. Or, as has happened, the head of the company will disappear. Look that one up.
If this channel gets striked, Rodney just mentioned something about something that happened recently.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. Yeah, we're probably going to get to strike now. It's just any company that's ever done business, and I've been, again, a tech journalist, I've been writing about companies that have done tech business in China for decades. And it before all the controversy about, when movie studios got involved and they started having to, basically toe the line for whatever the, Chinese Communist Party wanted to happen in movies. In the business world, that was just sort of the way it was done. Everybody understood that, you can't have a company that is incorporated in China that is not at some level controlled by the Chinese government. It's literally not possible. And so any company here in the United States that wanted to do business over there, they went, okay, well, that's what we got to do. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And if you're a tech company that's making, a partnership with, a network gear maker, you're all fine with that until the government here in the United States goes, oh, by the way, that Huawei might be putting chips in there to track our network stuff. So,
which is terrible because I love Hawaii products.
They are amazing. Frankly, some of the stuff that's available in China that isn't available in this market because of the fact that a lot of Chinese technology cannot be sold in the United States out of fear of government tracking chips and things like that, is fantastic. The Xiaomi phones, the Huawei phones, they're the TVs that we can't get here are just amazing. But it's not going to happen here. Anyway,
it's the price we pay.
It's the price we pay. That has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with, and it was a long tangent, and I'm sorry about that, folks. It has nothing to do with the fact that as far as we know, really corporately decent Swedish company bought Gearbox, and there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize. That was my tangent because I don't like Tencent. I don't like what they do.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. But so this is one of the funny things. 2K, which has been publishing Borderlands and Gearbox stuff, has said that this merger doesn't change 2K's relationship with Gearbox nor our role as the publisher for the Borderlands IP, blah, blah, blah. So apparently 2K was so worried about the fact that Gearbox was bought that they had to put out a statement to saying, oh, no, nothing's going to change, folks. We'll still be putting out your Borderlands games. We'll see about that. Depends on what the contract says between 2K and Gearbox. If their parent comes in and says, yeah, you know what, we found a better publisher, we're going to go with, God forbid, but Microsoft.
Yeah, give them 3 years and they'll put out Borderlands 4, which you get to play as an ICE agent trying to keep illegals out.
God, please no. Anyway, on that note, that's our last topic, folks. Thank you all for joining us in the chat. Lewis, you've actually, I would say, sprinkled in an awful lot of could we nots in the throughout the whole show. But do you have a could we please or could we not?
You know me. I usually have one or two rolling around, but can we not treat Black History Month like it's just a month? Same with Black cosplayers. Can we just stop using? Don't get me wrong. I want 28 days of Black cosplay to continue. I don't ever want that to change. But also, there's days after the 28 days where you can continue to support these people. You can continue to share their content. You can purchase from Black and buy DLC creators. You can do all of that. You don't have to do the bare minimum 1 month out of the year. You can just do the bare minimum of 12 months across a year, and that adds up. And you might think it's not a big deal. You're like, why just Black creators? Why not white creators? Why not Hispanic creators? And Black creators tend to suffer the most. We're not going to play Pain Olympics in this dialogue, but realistically, they get the least presentation out of anything, and they deserve it. Even if you don't care about the level of politics in that regard, they're good people. Showcase them. Show that love. Show that love outside of February, March, April, May, June, July. Keep that energy going, man.
Yeah. So, keying on to that, as I'm putting together our topics, we've made the point of thinking about making sure that there's Black related topics in our shows this month. And then as I'm putting together, it's like, well, I didn't really think about the reason for including Leica and the studios at Bowie State, or the reason for including the Idris Elba and Sabrina Elba news, or the reason for including Ava DuVernay news. Is like, that's all just really great nerd news, and it happens to be about Black people. So while, yes, we are going to make absolutely sure that in this month we will have, black nerd related content in every show, we pretty much have it in every show anyway, and that's wonderful. And I want to make sure that that is just the default, that's the way it goes forward, in part because the nerd entertainment money people, as they seem to be doing more and more these days, realize that there's absolutely no reason for those for black creators to not be represented as well as any other group. And it's I hate the term colorblind. I don't want to use that term. I want to get to the point where we don't have to think about recognizing the efforts of black creators 1 month out of the year, that we don't have to think about it at all. They're just wonderful creators that happen to be black.
Yes, and do them all a fantastic favor. If you share their content, if they're cosplayers and you share their costumes, don't refer them as the black version of whatever the hell they're dressed up as. Just refer them as what it is. If it's a Sailor Moon, call it Sailor Moon. Don't call it the black Sailor Moon. You're not doing them favors by doing that shit.
So I got to say, whoever has done that really doesn't understand the concept of 28 Days of Black Cosplay.
I have seen it so much this month, and I'm just like, you really are shooting yourself in the foot and sounding so damn ignorant in that you're like, I'm sharing all these black creators. Also, look at this black version of this character. No, it's that version. Unless you yourself are a cosplayer and you happen to be Japanese, those characters are Japanese for the most part. So don't do that. You don't go around and saying you're the white version of Sailor Moon or you're the Chinese version of Sailor Moon. You're Sailor Moon. So let's not suddenly add in dark colors because they're black.
Oh wow, I'm so happy that I've missed that. I'm
taking a break on Twitter really because I've seen it enough that I'm just like f this. This is ridiculous.
I keep up. And again, we're going too long, folks. I keep up the 28 Days of Black Cosplay hashtag so that I will know whether or not somebody that I'm about to feature on a given day has been featured like really recently. And I may pick a different person and move that other person to another day. And I've not noticed that, but then again, I haven't been paying attention to it. I'm going to start looking for that. And God, I hope none of the people that do this sort of highlighting that I like are doing that. So it's going to make me feel bad. Anyway, folks, thank you very much for joining us. Louis, if you would give us a goodbye.
Well, thanks everyone for joining in, watching our content, commenting in the comments. We always appreciate everything and anything that you say and do. We appreciate the support here at Nerd Caliber, 12 months out of the year and going forward anytime out of the year. So this is Louis Correa, co-producer at Nerd Caliber, and my man Rodney Brown, the big jefe himself, the humongous calabungus, the big boss.
The big beard. Thank you, Louis. I almost forgot this. Please, folks, if you want to help us when cons come back, go out and cover as many cons as possible. Support us at Patreon, patreon.com/nerdcaliber. I think we have like 2 tiers total. It's real lightweight sort of stuff, but every dollar helps.
And also sub the YouTube channel, right? Do you get money for the sub to YouTube channel?
Well, we have I'd have to we have Super Chat and we have some other things on the YouTube channel. We don't promote the heck out of it, but we really should. Yes, you can become a whatever they call it now. It's not anybody can subscribe to your YouTube channel. It's free, but they have a membership level, and YouTube used to have a specific name for that, and I can't even remember what it is. But yes, you can do that as well, and that would help us. Thank you for that reminder, Louis. Our next show Thursday, we are going to be on our Full Fat Spoiler Chat. We will be talking about the Transformers Earthrise movie, Netflix, I believe.
Yes.
Made in part by the folks that did the Red versus Blue stuff. So looking forward to that. Join us that night, this coming Thursday. If you've seen it, or if you don't mind spoilers, because we spoil the hell out of it anytime we talk about any sort of entertainment on this stuff. That's why it's called Full Fat Spoiler Chat. And then, of course, next Tuesday will be the next show of Nerd Week Live. We hope you can join us then. Between then, this Saturday, we are hosting, and our, unfortunately, perennially suspended because of COVID, Cosplay and Photography Expo, will be hosting a cosplay panel, live panel with Kitten and Strings Cosplay, Mink the Satyr, League of Larcy, and I'm going to mess up his name, his cosplay name, so I'm going to look it up here in a second. Talking about mental health and cosplay. When you think about it, that's a pretty big issue right now, with all of the stuff that's going on with the pandemic and so on. Here we go. I'm going to look it up and get you the person's name right now. Goggle Candy on Instagram. So Saturday, 7 p.m., Mental Health and Cosplay, a panel presented by Cape with these fantastic people. Kitten and Strings and Mink the Satyr in the last few years have been regular contributors and panelists at the Cosplay and Photography Expo. And you're going to really like what they say. So check that out.
Is it going to be on YouTube or Twitch or all of them?
Just like our other live shows, it'll be on all of our platforms. It'll be on this YouTube, this Twitch, and this Facebook Live.
Fantastic. No excuse to miss it.
Hmm?
No, I'm just kidding. I said no excuse to miss it.
No excuse to miss it. Luminous, Mink is an outstanding panelist. I'll be tuning in. Awesome. Thank you very much. So thank you. Good night, folks. Please stay safe, particularly if you're up here in Massachusetts. We got hit by yet our second snowstorm in 3 days. So if you're traveling tomorrow, the roads are going to be pretty nasty. As always, wash your hands, wear the mask, keep 6 feet distant. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Well,